after that, the judges can take it away.
Good afternoon. I think we've made it to the afternoon. Yes, we have out here in the Midwest. My name is Richard Leiter. I'm a professor of law and director of the law library at the University of Nebraska College of Law here in Lincoln, Nebraska. I've been doing judging We the People for about 15 years at the state level. This is my first time at the big stage, but I'm happy to be here. My colleagues are Candida, you're muted.
Sorry, trying to burden. My name is Candida Steele, and I'm retired as a judge on the U.S. Civilian Board of Contract Appeals. I handled federal government contract disputes around the country, and I'm originally from New York, so I'm curious where you're all from. But I lived in Maryland until Friday, and I've just moved to Maine. So, and I've been doing this program for about 20 years, so I hope they'll let me still continue.
Kurt.
Right, good afternoon. My name is Kurt Mabus. I'm a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force, practicing attorney, so a JAG, and I'm currently at the Air Force Academy teaching law. Apropos to nothing, just going to throw this out there. I grew up on Heim Road. I have no idea why I bring that up now, but yeah. So anyway, welcome all. Over to you.
Hi, my name is Owen Bates.
I'm Hunter Dello.
Hi, I'm Emma Heim, and I did not grow up on Heim Road.
And
Very
where are
good.
you all from in New York?
We're from Westfield, New York in Chautauqua County. It's right on Lake Erie.
It's about an hour south of Buffalo.
Far away from New York City.
Yeah.
So how
I
did
just want to say before I check out, I just want to say thank you for your time on a Saturday. Really appreciate the educational opportunity providing our students here.
Our pleasure.
Yes. All right, so we are going to be discussing question 1, unit 5. Everybody on the same page? Hope that isn't a surprise to anybody. A result of the decision in Wisconsin v. Yoder is that any parent or guardian can refuse to let their child go to school beyond the 8th grade or learn about a subject by saying it's against their religious beliefs. Do you agree or disagree with this result with the result of the decision? Why or why not? What words, if any, are found in the U.S. Constitution or in state constitutions that protect the right to an education? And how have courts balanced religious beliefs with other rights?
Thank you.
All
May
yours.
we begin?
Yes.
Education has always been a cornerstone in American democracy. As FDR once said, democracy cannot succeed unless those who express their choice are prepared to choose wisely. The real safeguard of democracy, therefore, is education. Throughout the history of America, there have been many citizens and presidents, such as FDR, who have valued education.
This has been evident throughout American history, from the Old Diluter Satan Act of 1647 to today's No Child Left Behind and Race to the Top. American democracy has always been and always will be dependent on a strong education.
As a result of America's value of learning and the welfare of society, we disagree in the decision of Yoder v. Wisconsin. Although we realize the importance of freedom of religion and the First Amendment, we believe that the common good, as well as a child's individual right, is jeopardized when an 8th grader is compelled to drop out of school.
Studies have shown that there is an overwhelming correlation between the lack of education, crime rates, and poverty. In a study done by a nonprofit organization in 2008, Fight Crime, Invest in Kids, it was found that if graduation rates were improved by a mere 10 percentage points, 3,000 less murders would occur, as well as 175,000 less aggravated assaults each year.
While we do not believe the Amish community would necessarily be a detriment to society, the ruling in Wisconsin v. Yoder states that any parent or guardian can refuse to let their child go to school beyond 8th grade or learn about a subject saying it's against their religious beliefs. Therefore, any parent can withhold an important vehicle to the welfare of a child based on religious beliefs.
While the right to education is not specifically stated in the U.S. Constitution, the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment ensures that every child has equal opportunities, including education. Families have the right to choose to enroll their child into a private school based upon their religious beliefs. However, it is also stated in many state constitutions that states will not fund any schools associated with any denomination or in which any denominational tenet or doctrine is taught.
The Amish community and other religious sects have the right to rear their children in the teaching and lessons they see fit, since their schools are private and not publicly funded. Therefore, we believe that these religious orders should continue to teach their children beyond 8th grade, reaching certain state standards while they continue the teaching of which their community embraces.
It is not easy to balance freedom of religion with other rights. Recently, before the onset of COVID-19, Governor Andrew Cuomo mandated vaccines for all students in New York. Jonas Stoltzfus, an Amish man, sued New York State because of this vaccine mandate. When the schools were shut down, many parents attempted to plead religious exemptions. However, Governor Cuomo declared that religious exemptions were no longer valid.
The court ruled in favor of New York State because the act of being vaccinated protected society and upheld the well-being of a community. In this court case, the freedom of religion is balanced with the common good. The First Amendment was regulated in order to protect the public health, just as we believe that the education goes a long way in protecting public safety.
Although the freedom of religion, as with other rights, an irreplaceable principle in American history, there are times when it is necessary to protect the good of society. Education gives the children the tools necessary to succeed in life. If we the people allow children to be deprived of a civic education, how are they to help preserve their own democratic rights and ideals, including religion? How will the lack of education equip them to participate in American democracy? We find it essential to provide equal protection of education for all children.
Very good. And well timed.
Thank you.
Well, let me start this off by just addressing something that you've been, you all sort of danced around. And that is in talking about the this right to education, and you've expressed eloquently how important it is. Most of the conversation focused around the parents' rights vis-a-vis the education. How does the child's right to education or to be educated or not factor into this?
Well, we see that the government, we see that the government shouldn't be telling parents how to teach their children how to grow up, but we also see that not every parent is good, and that some children are treated poorly, and that they should be given an equal opportunity in education.
You know, the UDHR talks about education. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights in Article 26 discusses education and how well it is the parent's right to decide how their child is educated. It's the right of the child to be educated. And this is backed by state education or the state constitution, that education is the right of the child. The UDHR says education encourages tolerance between friendships, religions, races of all kinds. This is what education is. It provides the tools necessary for children to continue on with their life, to participate in a democracy. And if we take those rights away from them, they may never grow up to learn how to be a productive voter or how to continue to fight for their rights and use their voices to speak out against the injustices that happen every day in our country.
The most recent act that we saw that was passed that replaced the No Student Left Behind Act is the Every Student Succeeds Act, which guarantees education for everyone. And it specifically focused on more people with IEPs and 504s who also have special education needs or special needs like that. And it guarantees personalized education as well for them who need more of it to the education that it needed.
If I can change the subject, I'd rather not, but we'll do so. What are What does separation of church of state and state mean?
So this is a big issue, especially with schools, because schools are the schools and education is a reserved right for the states. And how are we to balance this? And there has been a lot of issues, especially with busing. To a lot of states have approved busing to private schools, as and the majority of those private schools happen to be Catholic. There was a court case, Everson v. Board of Education, that was brought before the Supreme Court. Taxpayers in New Jersey were not happy that their money was going to support a private Catholic school, in that their constitution said that they wouldn't fund these schools. However, in Everson v. Board of Education, it was ruled that this funding was not unconstitutional because it wasn't aiding the private school. In fact, though, it was aiding the child's education. It was aiding them to get from point A to point B. Yes, the child and the parents have the right to enroll in a private school that is separate from the state and that is their religion and that receives no funding from them. However, it is the state's responsibility to ensure that every child has equal opportunity to get to these places and to have an education.
In addition to that, we have in many courts there are tests called the Lemon test, which focuses on the focuses to see if the government is doing unconstitutional actions with different religious organizations. In the Lemon test, basically you have to meet 3 requirements. One, that it has to be a secular action. The government has to have a secular action with this religious organization. 2, the government cannot discriminate against these other religions. It can't favor one church over the other. And 3, that these actions should not result in a heavy entanglement of this religious organization. And many lower courts use this as well as an endorsement test, just so they can make sure that the separation between state and church is constitutional.
Thank you.
In the court case, Elk School District v. Nudo, the father did not have custody of the daughter, but he was, based on their religious beliefs, they were fighting for under God in the pledge. So in the ruling, even if it's not mandatory to say it in the pledge through the school district, they were talking about hearing it as well. So in the ruling, they never made the decision on because he didn't have the custody, they said they couldn't make the decision, but they used dictum in the Supreme Court to go farther than the decision, and it did state that the under God in the pledge was constitutional.
Yeah, so this is all a big struggle. And Hunter, you even mentioned it in your opening that it's not easy to balance these various rights. You think Yoder got it wrong. What's the right test then to determine whether the balance is correct?
We should always make sure we have this correct. This is why we have, judicial review in place, which can reevaluate if this decision was correct. And maybe down the line, Yoder v. Wisconsin may be overturned and it may be found unconstitutional. With judicial review, I think that we have judicial review and the Lemon test and things like the endorsement test to be put in place to make sure that everyone's being heard and represented. And I know it's so hard to balance all these rights because especially today, there are issues, common good, individual good, especially with the COVID-19 and the pandemic, and how masks have risen, a problem about common good, individual good. It's a balance that we're constantly trying to get right, and it's a formula that we constantly have to reevaluate and redetermine and make sure we're getting everyone's voices heard and that every individual feels represented, because at the end of the day, that is what the Bill of Rights was created for. It was to protect our rights, and it was to give us, the American people, a voice in our government with the negative rights that are presented to us in the First Amendment, such as religion.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Don't you filibuster me. I know, I agree with you. But what is that formula? What's that test? What's the best way for the court to do it? Do you
Continue
agree
to
with any
evaluate.
recent court decisions?
well, as I said, with Everson and v Board of Education, they balanced it. And Jacobson v. Massachusetts is another court case with religion and vaccinations. Again, it was ruled that the common good is upheld, and I wouldn't really consider myself an expert on what the formula would be for the balance, but just maintaining this balance is necessity in our government.
Very good.
Great job, everybody. That was a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now it's our turn to give you a little feedback. I just want to assure you right off out of the gate, you all should be very proud of yourselves. Your presentation was excellent. It was pretty well paced, and you covered the subject pretty thoroughly. You appeared comfortable with the subject matter. We didn't get to ask you any real stickler kind of tough questions, but they all are by definition when you're dealing with constitutional law, and you handled them well. So thank you very much for an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll add on. Maybe I was a stickler. Maybe I was tough, but it was only because I tease you, and I hope you know that, filibustering, because I know you guys are thinking about this, and you can handle being pushed a little bit because of the depth of the conversation that we had. I'm especially impressed that you all are doing 2 units, and some of those are pretty distinct units. So well done there. I have a question, Owen. I didn't get to catch up with it, but I really liked the research that you identified. What was that research project? I actually want to write that down. Do you have it in front of you?
For which?
It was the one that identified if you stay in
Yes, Owen.
school and
I think.
less murders and such.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Give me 1 second. I have to
Fight
pull
crime,
up.
invest in kids.
Yes.
Would say that again?
It's
Fight
Fight
Crime.
Crime, Invest in Kids is the
Okay.
organization that performed that study.
Huh.
So anyway, I got work to do now. Owen, you gave me homework. Not fair. All right. So wonderful job. Thank you all very much. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you.
That it was superb. Thank you. Wow. I just concur with my colleagues here, and just wanted, especially with you having 2 units to do each, you really have done a sterling job, and for to do as well as you have, you must have really been inspired by this program and bitten by it. It's really nice to see kids who know more about the Constitution than anyone in my constitutional law class knew in law school. And you clearly have outpaced them and me at the time. And I'm sure that this is going to make you all wonderful citizens. You're going to be reading the paper and, you know, educating yourself and knowing what's going on and voting every chance you get. And I'm sure telling your colleagues and families and friends what your opinion is about that too. But I hope that you actually might do more than just that with it, because all of us desperately need people in the government, local, state, federal, who know what it's about. Or lawyers and judges also need to know what the Constitution is about. So there's many, many opportunities for you to use this experience, and I hope you will. Just as to give you a little impetus, inspiration, I have a cousin who is the reason I got involved in the program 20 years ago. He was on Colorado's team 20 years ago, and he's now gotten a PhD from Oxford in political science as a result of having gotten involved in this. So it can take you places. I hope you will enjoy it. You look as if you've had a good time, and I hope you'll have fun tomorrow too. But we certainly have enjoyed talking with you and made my day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.